kill you.
First of all, thank you, Jim, for the $1 super sticker, which, of course, anytime Jim sees the Hypno Turd, he is obligated to donate $1. So thank you, Jim. Um, that Bird of Prey 5 saying that I think is more apt today than I think any other time. Because
Yeah,
if anybody has seen Bird's review of today's episode,
the salt mines are wide open.
yes. And yeah, so I will say this, Bird. Now, Danny will be along hopefully very shortly. He got caught in a prior commitment, so he did tell me he would be along as soon as possible. And so me and Jason are just kind of stuck here hanging out without him. And I forgot to text him to let him know that, yeah, we're just kind of hanging out. Uh, and just I am so bad about trying to type and talk at the same time.
Multitask. Come on, we were talking about that the other
Yeah,
day.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
There we go. So, but yeah, so the show, I think really hit a nerve with Bird. Hit some similar nerves with at least one of the panelists on this show, and not with others. So we'll see how that goes when we get into it. But Jason and I were talking about, since we had a little bit of time to kill until Danny gets here, to kind of talk about the issue of continuity a little bit.
Yeah, we did a co-watch back through the episode, and it kept coming up as a subject that a lot of frustration that tends to come out, and especially, and this is no criticism at all, Bird, but a lot of the frustration that you were starting have been not just starting to, but have been expressing is that that a lot of things fall back on continuity and to a certain extent Star Trek lore. And we got talking, and the thought that hit me is how purist are we going to be with any storyline, any franchise, any kind of lore from any kind of storytelling medium? Doesn't even matter if it's TV or movies. How strict is the purity test for this?
Right. And now we are talking about Star Trek, so Star Trek is going to always have a higher threshold than other franchises like Star Wars or,
Yeah,
almost
unless the series or story universe portrays itself as being insanely accurate. Like if
right.
basically if it comes across serious, and I know I beat this poor horse to death, but the Expanse, for instance, if in all of its time trying to be accurate scientifically and very detailed story wise, it started going off into left field in the middle of its full run,
Right.
and then that killed it, well then it had no further to look than its own mistakes.
Right.
So that is an example. So like Stargate never ever makes a huge deal out of continuity, and in some cases, if I remember correctly, has even mocked its own self. But yeah, as it relates to Star Trek, man, Star Trek definitely seems to be an absolute hornet's nest as soon as something isn't right.
Right. And some fans will say, "Hey, relax, it's just a TV show." And then other fans will say, "No, you don't understand. They have to do it right." And
Yeah.
and then there are some things when you look at, "Hey, come on, that's just ridiculous." And other fans will say, "No, it's an homage to something that's come before." But like, for example, the fact that the changeling had a bucket that just happens to be identical to Odo's bucket, right? When we've never seen a changeling use a bucket other than Odo.
Yeah, and on the one hand wave that could be done for that is we know that this whole season is just like hunting blueberries in a blueberry patch, except
Right.
the blueberries are member berries, and they're so everywhere that you're just getting them all over you now, and
Right.
that's yet another member berry. But on the other side, from the nitpick side, why would you use exactly that bucket? Why not use something similar to the overall size, but it be definitively different looking?
Right, especially, and why would Shaw say a bucket and show a picture of Odo's bucket and then have Seven find Odo's bucket, and instead just have him say that they have to, rest in their liquid state, so find a container that could hold them, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
so
and we know from DS9, at least, if we're going to stick to, uh, established, uh, I don't know, lore is not the right word, but
continuity.
established press continuity or precedence. We know that the changelings can basically rest in anything that doesn't just let them spread out like carpet on the floor.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a bucket. It just has to be a reasonable container.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, uh, but then again, it was kind of dark to see. I have to mention, for anyone who doesn't follow Terry Metalis on Twitter, there was yet again, and this time someone took photographic evidence, another screw up by Paramount Plus, and the video was uploaded in some kind of bizarre compressed format or something, and the blacks were crushed right out of it to the point that huge amounts of shadow detail were missing. I did not have that problem with Crave TV up in Canada, but Paramount Plus, apparently they screwed up and
Right.
uploaded the wrong video source. So
I don't know why they've been having problems with that, but
I don't know. And it was a significant difference if you see the
yeah,
tweet from Terry Metalis,
right.
because he
And
retweeted somebody's screen capture.
Bird, I'm not arguing about the residue thing. I'm just saying, as far as the bucket is concerned, yeah, I would agree with you on the residue thing as well. There's never been evidence that they leave residue behind before. They've always, and in fact, it's always been a thing in Deep Space Nine that shapeshifters leave no evidence, and that's been a problem, and that you can't detect them.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, if you get a sample of them, you can scan for them. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Um,
So yeah, so let's bringing it back to, from the purity test perspective, uh, where is it that we should be cutting things off? Because there are whole blocks, as anybody knows, of even in TOS, there's inconsistencies.
right. Well, in every Trek
Wrath of
series, there
Khan,
are there are
well,
inconsistencies.
and I'm going to throw this one out for you.
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan, almost undebatably the best Star Trek movie of all the Star Trek movies.
Right.
Gigantic continuity error.
Well, with Chekhov.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get bigger. Like, this plot does not move forward properly at all if you make him not recognize Chekhov without going through and editing an enormous pile of content from that movie. But yet, that's sacrosanct. You don't touch that movie. You don't say anything bad about that movie. It's better than Undiscovered Country for most people, and Undiscovered Country is a bloody good movie.
Right.
So what do we do with Picard? First two seasons of Picard, absolute garbage. Most of the first two seasons of TNG were garbage. I've recently rewatched them. There's only a few things. Q being an awesome thing being brought into the franchise. The episode that had at the end of season 1 that basically reintroduced the Romulans and also introduced some menacing threat that we eventually figure out is the Borg. uh, and there's a little bit of stuff here and there in season 2, but
Or that is
most of season.
sacrilege to say Voyage Home was better than Wrath of Khan.
but yet once we get to season 3 and things pick up, super
And
chatty.
that was a super chat from Ignored. Said, "What's with Vedic cutting off her hand just to talk to it?" We'll get to that. Well,
Oh yeah, don't worry. When we get into the episode itself, we'll do
we will
that. We're just
definitely get to that. But yeah, but yeah, there's Star Trek definitely has this weird place in our hearts because we love it and sometimes we love to hate it. And so I watch Bird's rant, and but I will tell you, he had a lot of good points in there. There were a couple of things
he
that I was
did.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I think that maybe in the spirit of his rant, he might have let his emotions get away from him. Like when he was talking about the holodeck, for example, they did establish on Voyager that the holodeck runs on a different power source than the rest of the ship. And so that's actually been an established lore, um, stuff like that. But, so what? That was just an honest mistake. Little things like that. And there was actually one big one that you and I would disagree on, Bird, that I actually thought was terrible and you thought was great, which we'll get to when we're breaking down the episode. You probably know the moment I'm talking about. But there's a scene that I think completely breaks a character that Bird thought was like a great scene. But there's stuff that, yes, there are definitely mistakes in this episode. This is not a perfect episode. And
But yeah, that also brings me back to that question that is so
yeah,
hard to answer.
how,
And
yeah, what
yeah.
constitutes a deal breaker?
Well, to make it almost the unanswerable question, you one time asked me, how can you prove some form of entertainment is objectively good?
Right. Which
Good
you
luck.
can't.
Yeah, I mean that's just not happening.
Right.
You can try as much as you'd like, but yeah.
And when
So,
it comes
so
to lore, like one example that I used when we were talking about it, and I'll say this about the episode. And by the way, Danny did text me. He should be. Whoops, sorry, little girl.
no,
It startled her. She was like sleeping, and I moved. It was like, wow, what was that? But when when Riker was talking about, in all my travels, I've never seen evidence to the existence of an afterlife, right? And we were talking about, well, just the two of us brainstorming, we could come up with about a half a dozen examples.
yeah, and
Right.
Bird even went on a bit of a very
Right.
accurate tirade on, hey, look, there's this, and this.
Right. And
Yeah,
the
okay,
problem with that
yeah,
is that now you actually have a character citing past lore. So
yeah,
now you're opening up the floodgates when you say something like that.
yeah. Well, I
Because
can only imagine. I mean, as very upset as Bird was, I can only imagine what going to watch the Nitpicking Nerds long form review is going to be like on this episode, because
oh yeah,
he's going
list
to be
like 150
merciless.
different things that Riker has seen
Yeah,
that,
yeah. He'll fall down every rabbit hole on that.
right.
So yeah, but like without giving away too much before Danny gets here, like the funny thing for me is I still come out the other end of this episode happy, like
Mhm.
watching practically any other episode of, say, TNG season 3, even before we got to see Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2. So somehow or another, even in the face of all these issues, the show for me was still an enjoyable watch in general, and we'll get into some of the things that are going to affect my score as we go through the episode.
Right.
But yeah, I know it affects Star Trek way more than almost anything else, but uh, I don't know. Like I can actually give you another franchise where continuity was gaffed so bad that I would suggest that almost the entirety of that fandom is gone and will never come back, and that is Aliens.
Oh yeah.
And the absolute hot mess that was Prometheus and then Alien Covenant, um, which for me is one of those things where you can kind of go down into a big discussion on how Ridley Scott is maybe only 50-50 in his ability to produce good content. Hello, Danny.
Hello there. Hey guys, sorry about that. He ended up pushing the show back and started it 30 minutes later, which is
Yeah.
So,
Traitor.
That's okay. We
All
came
right.
up with some good content for the start.
Yeah.
when my friends call, I'm there. I'm there.
Oh yeah. So we're not your friends anymore.
No, you are. I'm here, aren't I? No, he called me with an emergency early this morning.
Yeah, you're here 20 minutes late.
Well, I did ask you to push the show back 30 minutes. Remember?
Yeah. So we
All right.
created new content, but relevant content.
Yeah. So we were talking about the well, you
The dangers of continuity purity.
Yes.
Oh God.
Because this is going to be a fun show,
Yeah.
and I think
so.
I'm stuck in the I think I'm stuck in the middle. You might as well just put me in the middle now too.
We'll do that, yeah. We'll be the referee.
I'll separate the two of you. Like,
All right. So let's start with since we kind of established it with Mando last night. We'll start with the hot takes. And so starting with Mr. Endorphins here. So go ahead, Danny. Lay on the schmooze here. Give us your hot take.
The hot take is usually a bad thing, right?
Doesn't have to be. No, just what's your main takeaway here?
like, I guess saying hot take isn't always perfect. It's either hot take or love take. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, what's your main takeaway from the episode?
I love the chemistry between the original, Riker and Beverly and Picard, and I like the emphasis on relationships. I like how people who don't necessarily like each other or get along, organically, you start to peel back these onion layers and you see, you learn why, and then you kind of you can move on after you kind of get something off your chest. I don't know, I really like the writing, but for my hot take, what I was going to say, and this was something I made a really big deal about a couple hours ago, is Picard dropping the F-bomb. That bothered the hell out of me. And apparently that was an ad lib, and they just kept it in. That was not in the script.
I heard that.
Yeah, so that's my hot take. I mean, Picard doesn't need to be dropping F-bombs. Up until this episode, I felt like this was something I could watch with my kids. Granted, my kids are older. They're older. But.
Yeah. That's a theme that's been brought up many times since Picard came out. Is the whole fact that Star Trek used to be something that you could watch together as a family.
Yeah.
And not have to worry too much about how young the youngest person in the room was.
Right. Yeah.
Short of maybe a frightening scene, because I'm sure a little kid would freak out about, Locutus of Borg.
Yeah, but still, I'm saying, I started
watching.
It's just, I was 7 or 8 when Next Gen came out, and my mom and I were watching it in real time on Fox, and as the episodes came out. And it was our family time, me and my little brother, my mom, my dad. We'd all watch, Star Trek: The Next Generation together. And you can't do that now. If they're making this for people in our demographic or I'll say, because you're probably younger, Jason, like let's say 35 and up. They're kind of making this for us,
Every
but
time I shave, I get 10 years younger, do I?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So okay, so people of our age,
yeah.
but still, he didn't need. Like I said this in a previous episode, the line that Shaw said, "Anybody else going to throw some more weird, what at me?"
Yeah,
The
exactly.
the line would have landed exactly the same if he'd have said crap or stuff. You know what I mean? Because that's not the cuss word's not what made it funny.
No.
And with Picard, when he was like, first of all, he's talking about getting tail to his son he just met, and he's dropping like it took 10 effing hours. I'm like, why did you need like that?
Yeah.
That was my biggest beef with this episode. So that's my hot take. Next.
All right, Jason.
Now, Danny made what I think actually made me really enjoy this episode, regardless. Perfectly well said, which is just that whole the family building that was going on in the episode. It just I never fell out with the show the whole way through. But if there was one thing that was both the most awesome thing to see and also the most frustrating thing to see, was when it was time to throw things again, which was hilarious and entertained me. But the fact that the boulder should have split that thing right down the middle, and it didn't.
I thought that was a awesome
That was
scene.
super annoying.
No,
because
man.
it's like you should not survive that. Like, come on. But
I thought it was
we
cool.
talked about this
Yeah.
before the show. Is that boulder is about the size of the one that took down a Star Destroyer in
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back. So yeah,
it's solid, and it's probably half metal.
That.
So it probably weighs like 8 times the weight of the Shrike. So it's like I love the throw. I hated the fact that all it did was like kick that poor thing around a bunch. Of like, no. I wanted to see
those ships are indestructible.
I wanted to see 2 big wings coming off and just be flopping around in the ether. But that was the most annoying thing for me. But yeah, there's a bunch of little oddball stuff throughout. But because of the story elements, like the character building that they were trying to do in some cases, and the character building or rebuilding that they did achieve, that just kept me in it the whole time. Like I got up early and started the episode, and I just went all the way through. I just didn't stop. I couldn't even hit pause because it was just, yeah.
Yeah, me. This to me was the worst episode so far by a substantial margin. I didn't see it as character building at all. I saw it as character assassination for the most part, which we'll get into as we go through the episode. But honestly, if you consider the climax of this episode was literally that it turns out that the Titan was literally in the womb of a giant space monster, and it had to escape through the birth canal and get out the space vagina just ahead of the birth of the space squids. And that was the climax of this episode. I was literally rolling my eyes at that. I mean, it was just like the dumbest thing. This was right up there with Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean,
I knew he was going. I did not know he was going to bring it up, but I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
this was right there with it. It was just a better. They were looking. They were. These were.
We were actually saying we think it's kind of. We don't know for sure, but we think it's kind of cool if it happens to be the same species from Encounter at Farpoint, and it just looks better now. In that.
These are just babies.
But then, maybe they have to have this weird giant cloud thing is where how the breeding ground or whatever. But man, you described that a lot more graphically than I imagined it while I was watching. So,
actually, the funny thing is that and Jason mentioned this when we were talking, is that this episode ended the way you like to end live streams. The Titan literally made like a baby and headed out.
Was head first.
Yeah.
That's how this episode ended.
Yeah.
And then just for good measure, you know, threw a bowling ball at the other ship. I mean, all it needed was the sound of bowling pins going off when it hit the strike. That would have just made my day. Or, you know, I was thinking, man, I just wanted to edit that one part and have Tim Allen go, and I'm dragging mines right before they let go of the rock. It was just like
Man,
so ham to me.
wow.
It
All
was
right.
so yeah. There's my hot take. So let's start going through this lovely, lovely episode. This masterpiece of Terry Metalis, who I'm sure will block me on
If we
Twitter.
color graded the 3 boxes, it would be like green, yellow, and then red at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm on Team Bird right now. I'll be honest. You know,
So yeah, remember you can just hammer on the
we
arrow
start out
keys.
5 years ago. Once again, I mean, what is with this show in bars? I you know, but whatever. So we're at another bar. And by the way, another bar with member berries on it because we see
Well, it's Guinan's bar.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's the
Well,
Tim
it's
Forward
just-
bar.
I don't
back on
need to
Earth.
see-
It's just that they keep doing the. We were kind of pre-talking about this.
Yeah.
But it's the whole 3 out of 4 episodes they do a time jump back. Now I'm going to preempt and throw in an extra comment here and say I think half the reason why they're doing this is because they're stressed for time. This is the last season of this entire series.
It's more money.
And they're trying to fix a lot of holes that need to be filled to be able to tell the rest of the story. And this is the only way they can do it.
Bar they were in last season.
Oh no, this is where they went to. This is where he's eating. Yeah. This is another place.
Yeah, but this bar,
this is Guinan's bar. This is Tim Forward. Yeah.
Okay.
It says it when they first come in. You see.
You see it on the stairs, but this is not the same bar. I mean, I know it's supposed to be the same bar, but it's not the same bar. And but we see an ambassador.
We haven't seen the 24th century, 25th century, whatever version of this bar. We only saw the 20th century version of this bar.
Well, I'm just saying that they're using a different location.
Yeah.
And so but they're now we get to see, of course, an ambassador class starship because we haven't seen one of those yet, and we see an old painting of Picard because we haven't seen one of those yet. You know, we got to throw
actually that exact same painting was in season 1, and
but I'm saying they're just shoving stuff on the screen. I'm tired of it. Just let a set be a set.
No, man. Like I'm gonna disagree with that.
You don't need to shove something in every single camera shot.
Hey, you know what? Normies won't get it, and it won't affect the story at all. And then people like me will squeal like a chick at a Beatles concert when I see stuff, or I'll nitpick it because that picture, that painting of Picard and Guinan, is from a scene that took place in the Nexus.
So I don't care. So how would it be there?
Yeah, that's why I'm agreeing with that one. That's why that one bothered me. But the glamour shot of Guinan from TNG that's above the table Picard's sitting at. I'll point it out if you have this still. I'm
just fast forwarding a few seconds at a time, but whatever comes up comes up. But I'm just saying, throwing this crap into every single shot is unnecessary. It's gratuitous. It's like all they did was they went to the Star Trek Museum and they said, "Give me everything, and we'll throw it on the screen somewhere."
Man, I just this is why we can't have good things because we just bitch and complain too much.
So Picard's trying to have his lunch, and some cadets incredibly inappropriately interrupt him.
Yeah.
This is something. So, and I know you've never served in the military or anything, Danny.
No,
this is something that would never, ever happen. A high-ranking, well-known admiral sitting down to have his meal being interrupted by some cadets who do not have any business talking to him. Those
Now,
people.
my take for realism is that there should have been a crowd of them daring one of them to go talk to Picard, and not them all flying up there like it was a Beatles concert.
Right.
Then it would have maybe come off a little bit better for everybody watching the show.
And then if he invited them to come talk to him, that would have been fine.
Bird, this is 2 years before season 1. So
yeah,
keep that in mind.
Well, so 2 years from now, everybody forgot who he was?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
I had a theory. I don't think Darren's in the chat.
His theory is that Darren Wagner was the guy at the desk.
He's the receptionist at Starfleet headquarters in
he's just being a jerk
in San Francisco. He's just being a jerk to Picard.
I love these Roddenberries personally, as long as they don't take away from the story.
I know that I know they intentionally tried to find Star Trek knickknacks to put in there, and I find that offensive. I don't want, just let the sets be realistic sets.
How are they not realistic?
It's an overdress.
Yeah. It's like when you go, they create a son's bedroom in a drama, and the bedroom has like 750 model airplanes because they want to establish that the kid likes airplanes. No kid has 750 model airplanes except for maybe Thomas Potts. And thank you, BK Dan, with a $2 super chat.
Super chat.
As gratuitous member berries, love them not. Yes, I'm with you there. I do not like I like the occasional member berry, but when you just, I'm feeling like if you've ever seen that Treehouse of Horror where they take Homer Simpson and they strap him down and they just start shoving donuts in his mouth, that's how these member berries are feeling. Is that they're just shoving them down my throat. And so like the occasional member berry is nice because that's something you like. Oh, hey, cool. I remember that. But this is like such overkill.
I mean, that's just like your opinion, man.
Of course it's my opinion. If it wasn't my opinion, I wouldn't say it.
I've been bathing in most of these berries. There's only a few that have been bothering me. Yeah. And that's the
look. He should be like, get away from me.
Yeah. So hey, let me show you something because a couple people in the chat said that they didn't see this. So I have it paused perfectly.
Guinan. Yeah, I was trying to find the particular thing that you're looking at.
Yeah, I got it right here. So this is from the Nexus, right there.
Oh yes, that one up on the wall. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, that's why that bothered me. Like, why would he a painting of a scene from the Nexus? It just didn't make sense to me.
Because member berries.
Well, worse than that, I think sometimes with some of the stuff that we've seen, and maybe this is what's the maybe not even the volume of them, but the kinds and the ways that they're being tossed in. It almost feels like somebody's
super chat.
And thank you, BK Dan, with a $5 super chat this time, saying salty quoting The Simpsons. Cross that off my bingo card. Yes, indeed. We're going for the blackout this time.
Yeah. The problem that I think is going on is it's almost like somebody's second level assistant was told to go looking for things, and it was the first time that they'd ever watched any Star Trek stuff ever, and they just kind of barreled through things, and they're like, I've been told I need to find 23 things. I will go find 23 things, and then another second assistant or second set assistant goes off and starts putting them places that they think that it looks right, but because no one nerds like a Star Trek nerd. They're never going to do it right. So for me, I give a lot of leeway on a lot of this stuff. An awful lot more than
But
we're
like,
just going to start calling the channel The Salt today.
Yeah.
but like, what's the point of the ambassador class ship?
All right.
You know, if there's no point to, it's like Chekhov's gun. If there's no point to having the ambassador class ship in the foreground, don't show it to me.
Well, that was you're talking about the Enterprise C model. That was right
Yeah,
before
that's
the
an
panel.
ambassador. It wasn't
So-
necessarily the it wasn't necessarily the Enterprise C. It was just an ambassador class ship.
I was Enterprise C.
You don't know. It just
Show-
No, it was there
So-
for us. It was
Yeah.
a C.
So, are you looking at my screen again? This was the other thing I was pointing
no.
out.
I'm looking at my screen.
All right. Well, I'm just pointing at it. That's Guinan from TNG, like
You
season
know,
5.
I'm not going to keep switching between
Is
the
that-
screens.
Is up on the wall. Oh, there it
Yeah.
is. I couldn't find it. I
Barely
was
see
watching it
that.
through. Yeah.
I mean, the lighting is so good on this episode. You know, that's
Actually, yeah, I see yours is still not. Yours is a copy from the before they fixed it.
yeah.
Though.
Well, I got it off of Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Look at that. From that to that. so and then to that. Oh,
Yeah.
now there's there's a meme moment right there.
Well, that's almost like the face he made when Jonathan Frakes made the bad gaff, the one that they have done into the meme, where he's
Yeah.
doing the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now all the kids are gathering around for Picard's story hour, and which, you know, when Picard starts telling all about his adventures, his madcap adventures, and then we cut to present day while Picard is solemnly looking out the window at their impending doom, which of course you can see so clearly in this well-lit room. You know, they're looking at their impending doom. And then we get a repeat of the shot that we got at the end of the last episode, because I guess they couldn't afford the effects budget. And then J.J. Abrams showed up and added some lens flares to the bridge.
No, I never even picked up on that.
Yeah. So Riker is on the bridge trying to figure out options. You know, what can we do? Is there anything we could possibly do but unfortunately, you know, pretty much everything is SOL. You know, they have no power for weapons, they have no power for engines, they have no power for pretty much anything. And apparently on a ship with 500 crew, they also have no engineers. And so, you know, which that might help. That might be why they're having so many problems. Just a thought. So yeah, Riker's getting a little depressed because apparently, you know, no matter what they, you know, all they can do, and what Riker ends up ordering is to consolidate everything they can into life support and get all the crew into common areas and shut down other areas of the ship, so that basically they can just keep people alive as long as possible, and, you know, then wait to die. And then all of a sudden there's a bright light and God shows up. And so
Does God need with a starship?
yes.
No, because it's
Apparently
episode
God-
4. It's episode 4. There are 4 lights.
Yes. And to PK Tan with another super chat. Thank you, buddy.
This soul ship out of luck. Lol.
Super chat.
You know it's impolite to talk with your mouth full.
It's empty now.
Okay.
But you can
So
see it.
does SOL stand for ship out of luck? Yes, indeed. In fact, I think that's what they should start, you know, just putting SOL on the hull now for any ship that's not named the Enterprise. So then Riker goes to talk to Picard and basically tells Picard to shut up and apologizes to Picard for not listening to him when Picard first told him to attack. Which honestly, it makes no sense that Riker wouldn't have wanted to attack right away anyway, because Riker is the brilliant strategist, not Picard. I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but Riker's outmaneuvered Picard every time they've, as far as like, if you look at episodes like Peak Performance and stuff like Peak Performance, Best of Both Worlds, Riker is the strategist. He should have known that to attack early on when they had full power was the thing to do.
I think the problem with Riker's character at this point isn't that there's anything specifically wrong that I feel. Oh, and I was going to put it in chat, but I'll say it real quick. Stan Lee, there's no HDR on Crave TV, but there's supposed to be automatic HDR detection on Paramount Plus, apparently. So, anyway, Riker, the way they've had to redo his character to drive the rest of the storytelling in this whole season is, I mean, obviously it's opposite of everything that we're used to in TNG, but the problem that we have that they're trying to solve, as far as I feel about it, with all these flashbacks in time, is reconstructing the characters or adding more interim background into the characters so that we understand what their motivations are right now.
Right.
And I feel a little bit of it is can be criticized as slightly rushed and maybe a little clumsy. But the funny thing is, and I said it at the start, and I'll say it again, the flow of the show, and I mean, maybe hats off. This is another Jonathan Frakes directed episode. None of it really took me out of it. For me, it was an enjoyable episode. So I can see the things that other people are going to complain about, kind of thing. But for me, I'm more green than red.
Well, you see, my problem here is not that Riker's wrong, because I think Riker's correct to apologize to Picard given the circumstances. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that Riker ever would have made the poor choice in the first place.
Well, you got to understand you're talking about the character from 25 years ago. This is a different man. He's gone through a lot of stuff.
This is an idiot.
Wow, that's harsh, man. That's harsh.
Well, no, because this is Riker. You don't just, I mean, okay, so because what's probably going to happen, here's my prediction for Riker moving forward for the next 6 episodes. Now that all of a sudden he feels good about his son and he feels good about Troy, he's going to, because everybody says that he gets in better shape.
You're skipping to the end here. Like I'm really surprised. This was my favorite episode so far. It's your least
I understand,
favorite.
But he's going to, I'm telling you, this is for the series. I'm not talking about this episode. Mm-hmm. He's going to suddenly start getting in shape. He's going to start carrying. And by the end of the series, he's going to become a strategic master. Even though you don't suddenly you don't go from being a strategic master to becoming an idiot and then back to a strategic master because you're an
I'll fight you on that. I'll say yes if the story development is done right, because they did a fairly decent.
Done right.
No, I know, but we're back to the problem that this is the only season they have. This is it. Like I'll be crusty pants in the other direction, but they need to do whatever they can to get this story out. Now, either they tried as best as they can, and they're obviously, from a critical perspective, not necessarily striking on every note. But if they didn't make a go of it, that's it. We would have had no season 3, or worse, if they had somebody else other than Terry Matalas come in, we could be staring at Picard season 2 Redux or something.
Right.
And we don't need that. Like, Honestly,
No,
like,
and I'm not saying that this is like, even though I think this is the worst episode of the season,
Wow.
I'm not saying that it's as bad as, the drop off from season 2. I'm not saying it's them tooling around 21st century Earth bad. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like a total dumpster fire here, but I do have problems with this episode, obviously.
Obviously.
And we haven't even gotten to the big ones.
well,
Um,
let's not
yeah,
flog this any further. We can definitely move along
let's
here.
keep moving, and we're gonna. All right, so
I'll do a throwback and I'll say, move along home.
yeah.
Ala Moraine.
All right, so they finish up their little conversation, and then we finally get the opening credits here. I think that's where they were.
We went.
Meanwhile,
We passed. Or go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
so meanwhile, Seven is searching.
Wasn't that the theological conversation, or was that later?
oh yeah, it was. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah,
That
we
is
missed that. Yeah, we went too quick.
So this is one of the crappiest moments in Riker's
You're out
entire.
You're out of your mind. This is somebody. First of all, I figure somebody like you would. This is somebody who had faith, lost, lost his child, lost obviously having problems at home. He gives this really beautiful, poignant speech about how not feeling anything, and Deanna feels everything, and it's more painful to her that she feels nothing from me, and it's painful for me, and this is somebody who's like, they're showing you in this scene why he's a quote unquote idiot, as you put it, which I don't agree with. I think this is way too harsh. He's somebody he's like in a low point. I don't know if spiritually is the right word, but like he's at like an existential crisis in his life.
I understand that. And
Now I think the problem is that they made Riker say things that don't make sense considering everything he's experienced. Now,
Explain.
so we've got 7 years on TNG where they have seen all kinds of fantastical things. There are things that happen to Picard. There's no way that Picard eventually didn't confide in Riker, like when Q pulled him off into heaven or whatever, and all the ethereal planes
and
things
I don't mean to interrupt
that have gone on.
Hold on, I gotta say something because I timed out Darren. Because you know what, Darren, if you want to disagree with me, I'm perfectly okay with that. You want to sit there in the comments and say that I'm wearing saggy diapers because you disagree with me, leave. All right. I don't have time for that kind of crap.
Did you mean soggy or saggy?
He said Salty is wearing one of those saggy diapers that leaks. I'm done.
Yes, Riker did have a beard in Nemesis.
And I don't care if you want to disagree with me, fine. Disagree with me on substance. If you want to just hurl insult, go elsewhere. Period.
All right.
So I'm sorry.
Okay. So I think if you reworded it just a little bit to bring in a slice of what Danny said, which is that the experience that is best called an existential crisis at this point for Riker has completely shooken him to the degree that even with everything that he has seen, he's lost faith, if we want to use those words.
Yeah,
right.
That's how.
But because they made the character say things like this, say things the way that they did, this is where you get into this continuity thing. And if you want to have an interesting, we could talk about it at the end again if we're not too long. But if you go back afterwards, Danny, and you watch the first 15, 20 minutes, one of the things when I knew you were going to be later, I said to Mike, I said, we could definitely take a few minutes and talk about this whole continuity purity test stuff.
Right.
That everybody seems to go down the rabbit hole on Star Trek in particular, but
the big problem here, let me say this.
Yep.
The big problem with this line here, Danny,
Mhm.
is that Riker says, in all my travels and all my time, I've never seen anything to indicate there's any kind of afterlife, which is demonstrably false. If you've watched Star Trek The Next Generation, that is demonstrably false. And so
Please explain.
Q,
Give me a couple examples.
Nagilum,
Q
that's
died.
just the first season.
Okay.
No, but he was even made a Q for a while, so he actually had access to.
Yeah, he had access to
the
higher
knowledge of the
planes
Q.
of existence.
Yeah,
He had direct access to it.
yeah. So that's why I say, like, I don't want us to burn a pile of time on this, because this could go in all kinds of stupid directions. But the problem that comes out of this is that little bit of extra writing, and what I do find interesting, and this is why I found that this episode, even with its issues that you could nitpick, I didn't have an overall problem with the episode, is because, well, Danny was able to read out of it probably what should have been conveyed.
Right.
And for me, that's kind of how I headcanoned it immediately for me. Because part of my brain went, he's wrong. And then the other part of my brain went, no, he's got this issue where his family's flying apart at the seams. He's the captain of a failed, unofficial mission, like a non-sanctioned mission. Like, his whole world is flying apart at the seams here. So I'm willing to play out all kinds of rope. But
right. The problem is he shouldn't have said, "Oh, I have no evidence," or that's like, I would just love for John Delancey to show up and say, "Really?" It's so that would
pennies on team, move along home. Get her going, boys.
And LDG with a $2 super chat. Thank you, LD.
All right,
Danny.
Super chat.
Riker was Q for an episode. Don't know my at.
Don't know.
Didn't know. Yeah.
All right. So, falling starships and space physics.
Oh, and Bird points out Times Arrow scientifically proved there was soul in the Star Trek universe. Bam.
Oh, I don't even remember in that
how
episode
did
how that worked.
How did that work in that episode? Because Times Arrow was the one with the Mark Twain. It was a two-parter.
Yeah.
Interdimensional beings, not afterlife or anything.
Anyway,
not yeah.
So 7, let's not beat the dead horse. 7 is hunting down our changeling friend, and so she goes into the quarters of the transporter officer, and this and by the way, of course, member berries lying around.
You didn't appreciate the Calto set?
No, I didn't.
Would have if it was in her room, but not in his room.
Yeah.
That was my actual only complaint about the Calto here, was that it wasn't in her room.
Yeah. Anyway, now, and of course,
and what about things like because we glossed over so much cool stuff, because I actually did take notes.
Dude,
like
we only have so much time. We can't go over every frame of the episode. We're only
saying every. Okay, man. Sorry.
Right. So she comes into the quarters and is immediately repelled by the pungent smell of the rotting corpse in the closet, except that she's not.
You gotta be a writer, man. You do really good descriptions. Like, you really kind of take it to a next level, to be honest with you. But
dude, look at that. It's rotting.
Oh yeah.
He does not look happy.
Yeah.
My theory is hermetically sealed closets, but I was voted down on that earlier.
Anyway, so then she talks to Riker, and Riker says, we better keep this whole hunt for the changeling a secret to avoid affecting
morale. That makes perfect sense. That's why, like, the government always lies to us.
The crew has 4 hours to live.
Yeah.
I don't think crew morale is a thing right now. Also, he then says that she should work off the books. Why? What possible good will that do?
Well, Well,
He doesn't
in
give a
theory,
reason.
hold up. In theory, well, no, I mean it does make sense. If there's a changeling on board that has the ability to be anyone,
Mhm.
you don't know what type of clearance they have. You don't know what kind of information they can get, or communications they can listen in on. So if she's still like whatever, however they set it for insubordination, she's like on temporary
Yeah,
suspension or
she's off
something.
duty. She's
Yeah,
suspended.
so she's kind of off grid as far as like that changeling would be concerned about concern over, you know, crew members looking for
But wouldn't
hits.
that mean she has no clearance and no access?
That well, okay, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well,
Wouldn't that,
I mean, based on principles that have been established in other episodes of other series, sh her access was not revoked, just her official status.
Yeah.
She'd still have access to everything.
but that doesn't make any sense. If she's suspended from duty, wouldn't her access code stop working?
No, because remember, in the 23rd, 4th, 5th century, everyone knows the responsibility of using
Yeah,
or
I
not
know.
using. Come on, come on. Hey, look, if you're gonna play continuity stuff,
Hey, don't
we can
forget,
go.
it's Prodigy, some
We can
stupid teenagers can take a
we
star.
can go both ways with this. I told you, Danny, I was right in the middle of the whole time.
No, yeah.
I could go every direction with this one. Like,
All right, so so then, meanwhile, in sickbay, Dr. Crusher
Meanwhile,
is counting down the. Where are you going, Danny?
he's been blowing his nose a bunch.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, now you're muted.
I said, do you guys really want to listen and watch me blow my nose?
No, I just
okay.
That's
Yeah.
how you just
I
do it.
only figured it out because you started to earlier, and then you clipped the mute as well, and I was like, oh.
Anyway,
okay.
so Dr. Crusher is like timing the power surges that are coming through. But while she's doing this, even though she's kind of figured out an algorithm to time it, she's not telling anybody about it.
I think that she just hasn't really fully decided that she's onto something.
Well, but just kind of weird. I mean, because she had it down to the second. She was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it hit.
Sure.
So she had it figured out.
But she could have been noticing it before we got down to sick bay, because everything's not.
Well, she
The
didn't
show's not happening linearly, so.
Oh, okay. No? She says later that she figured it out. Like it was like she compared it to contractions because time between contractions
later.
changes. Right. So I'm saying she hasn't told anybody yet because she's trying to figure it out. I think she's still in the process of gathering more data. So she's got more guns in the bullet, so to speak, when she goes, to shoot this idea past Riker. That's how.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go completely outside of Star Trek, we could actually do a super sci-fi throwback to Independence Day when what's his face figured out that there was a signal in the signal. You remember when the aliens were using the satellites?
Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Yeah.
So she's paying attention. She's probably the only one paying attention.
Yeah. So,
It seems like it. It really does seem like it.
So she's actually paying attention to the timing of it, while everybody else just seems to be not. And by the way, Darren, you are now officially off this channel, just so you know, because that was just a bridge too far.
That was kind of a dick move. But what have I been telling you guys?
Yeah. So, no, he's gone. That's it. I'm done. Not playing the games. So then, it's this. So 7 goes in to talk to Shaw. Now this, in my opinion, is Shaw's best scene in the entire series so far. I really like this scene.
This is the meme scene.
Well, no, this is where Shaw teaches her a very valuable lesson on how to identify a change.
No, that's later. She's coming into his office here, or his quarters, and says, can we talk? And he said, not on the record.
No, he says no, and then
no, he said not.
record,
He said
no,
and then he says no. He says no that time.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
And then
so-
she tells him we have a changeling, and then he lets her in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's the double no. I just let it play. It's like, can we talk?
Yeah.
No. Unofficially, no.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like the do not come in or whatever it was he saying before.
Oh yeah.
don't come.
Don't come.
Yeah.
Don't come.
Yeah.
So
Which,
then, meanwhile,
Phrasing.
Picard brings Jack into a holodeck recreation of 10 Forward. Although, again, I know a lot of people have said this, but really should have done the Enterprise D version of 10 Forward, but instead it's back to Guinan's bar. I don't know why everybody's afraid to do the beige Enterprise D, but
Well, you
that
got to
was-
Well, I
understand,
don't-
man, like 25 years has passed, and he had at least the F after or the E after that, and this doesn't seem to bother
Yes,
me
but
because this
he
seems
even
to be a
said that
place
was
he
his
goes in
favorite
real
place.
life. No, he said that was his favorite ship.
Yes, that was his home, and that was the place and so and that's the thing. If you're gonna put a member berry in, there is a member berry that would be organic to the story, because that bar would be a natural, organic place for him to take Jack. And BK
I don't know.
with a $2 super chat. Thank you, buddy.
Super chat.
And says, admit it, Danny, you LOL'd when Shaw said pot. Oh, we know you.
Oh no, it was even better. So I was like, and then she goes cannabis, and I go. So it was a twofer for me.
I was so surprised you didn't message me this morning, Danny.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just waiting for it.
No, I had a busy day. Once Brian called me at like 7 a.m. So then I was like,
Let's not get sidetracked because we got a ways
sorry.
to go.
Yeah.
All right, so they're drinking together, talking about stuff, and they're starting to bond over product placement. So remember,
Jameson.
kid,
Jameson
drink
was
your
in last
Jameson
season.
whiskey.
Were they
They
in
had-
last
they had that-
season?
Yeah, it was in last season, in the bar last season.
Oh.
Jameson whiskey, the official whiskey of Star Trek.
And it tastes
They-
terrible,
they-
man. Four
They
Roses is way
put
better.
out the Saurian brandy factory.
Yeah.
The worst thing about it was that was that when last season they referred to Saurian brandy as hooch. I found
Oh, did
that-
they?
Yes, they did.
Oh, see, I'm never
Yeah.
going to see it, so I got to
He
ask.
went into 10 Forward and he told Guinan he needed a drink, and she said top shelf or hooch, and he said hooch, so she grabbed a bottle of Saurian brandy.
Oh, burn.
I was livid about that one. So they actually start bonding. Okay, so now we go back to this. Now this is the really good part. This is what Danny was talking about here.
Yeah.
So where he starts educating her on how to spot a changeling by complimenting her, and
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was good.
Shaw
Shaw is so good. Like, I really like this character a lot.
Yeah. And
I do think it's weird, though, that he's still walking around with a broken leg when we live in a time 200 years after a pill could regrow a kidney. I mean, what's up with that?
don't get me started on the
Just so he could have that pimp
inconsistencies of-
cane for the rest of the episode? Because that was pretty pimp.
Yeah, well, he goes. I mean, the medicine in Star Trek is so inconsistent. It's like,
Yeah.
This guy's really mad, but hey, whatever. So she starts looking around to try and find the bucket.
Yeah.
Because,
The pot.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the strike
Oh,
is
so we missed it. I guess we have to go so fast. I liked Shaw's comment. I can't remember exactly what it was. After she asked like cannabis, and he said something like,
I wish or something.
yeah, something like that, which was funny. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, so then she cuts off
This is a
her
creepy
hand,
scene. Yeah. So this is
and
where
her
we
hand
learn she's
turns
a
into
changeling.
floating skull monster
Yeah.
and
It's not
talks
really.
to her.
It's like a.
And the skull
goo.
monster looks very much like a founder as far as the material.
Yeah.
So, couple of theories that Jason and I were
so
batting
gross.
around. One is that she is a changeling,
Yes.
and that she, when she cuts off her hand and puts it on that device, it allows whoever is in control of everything to communicate through her separated changeling goo.
Okay. I have a theory on this too, but go ahead.
Yeah. The other is that she's not a changeling, but she has some changeling goo attached to her that when she separates it from her and puts it on the device, it can communicate with her. What is your current theory?
So my current theory is, first of all, what happens when a changeling is separated from the Great Link for too long? Do we remember, boys and girls?
From the Great Link too long,
From
or
if
unable
the-
to? Well, there's
No, if they're
two things.
separate,
There's
you know,
the
I
Great
know.
Link problem, and then
Yeah.
there's the not going to liquid problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about the not going to liquid. I'm talking
Okay.
about, because this even came up with Odo, who hadn't been to the, because he says, I can't remember the exact line, but the lady founder that chose to look like Odo said something like, because he was like, why didn't you ever come looking for me? He was like, because we knew you'd always be back, because you have to reconnect to the Great Link. I'm paraphrasing. Like, basically, he would die if he never went back to the Great Link. So
Bird says he
yeah,
just
you-
figured it out.
okay,
He just
Bird.
figured
Well,
out the
anyways,
big
so
bad.
my point is, remember now, we've been told that, and again, this is a theory. Worf has already said that Odo, who as we remember at the end of the Dominion War, went back into the Great Link to run it the right
Yeah.
way, basically. So in Worf references the fact that he talked to Odo. He doesn't say him by name, but he talked to him and found out that, hey, there's this small splinter, faction of changelings that really weren't happy with how things went down and want to continue the war. So I'm thinking this guy here, this is again a theory. This guy here, he's got like, what did I call it? I called it the, you have the Great Link, and then you have like the,
Whatever their link is.
terrorist link, and it's just like a little section of the pie. You know what I mean? But he's the one that like runs it, and I think that she's this device thing is just a way for her to remotely somehow connect to him, because he's still back at the Great Link terrorist edition or whatever. That's just this is my theory. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that kind of works with what I was thinking.
she's
That her cutting her
definitely-
hand off.
I think she's definitely a changeling, though. That there's no question.
Yeah, I lean way more towards the changeling, mostly because
She seems kind of emotional for a changeling, though.
at first she's been pretty subdued since the beginning of the last episode.
She was putting on an act, but every time we've seen her where she's not being seen by humans, she's
pretty.
I don't know. She was when
yeah.
she was like doing her whole "you're coming into my claw" or whatever.
The Bible quote, and then she's spinning around like her dad in Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
It's probably because
or member berries that are member berries.
Jesus, man. All right, let's move it along.
And so Bird thinks they're Borg changelings, but I don't think that makes any sense.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And so she's not happy about the fact that the monster skull flying flame thing wants her to go after the asset, regardless of the fact that it's very dangerous for them. And so, then her hand reassembles. So, and Bird says, laugh now. Okay. I laugh at you, you Karogan slime. And then she, orders them to jettison the portal device because why not? And I got to say, why jettison the portal device, even if it won't work in the nebula?
No,
Why
she said
jettison
she referred to it as payload. She said we have two
it's the
our
portal device.
payloads to. Yeah, I know it's the portal, but when she used the word payload, it seems more like a maneuver, like a weight maneuverability, type
It's
of thing. Like
tiny.
she's got maybe it looks tiny. I mean, you saw the Daystrom Institute logo on it. If you get a good pause,
Yeah, but that's just
which was cool.
that's just another member berry. I mean, we already knew it came from the
A
Daystrom
Roddenberry,
Institute.
but that's fine.
It's a member berry. I don't
You're
care.
you're so grouchy today, Salty. Why so salty, Salty?
Because this episode made me salty.
Well,
So back to Picard telling stories to the kids about how awesome he is. And, and then he wants to eat his lunch, but they won't stop talking to him. And then meanwhile, back in the present day, Picard and his son are still getting whiskey and talking.
Well,
And then
when you skip over there's relevant conversations that happen. There's a reason they show these flashbacks because of especially the last one where we get the big payoff at the end. He's remembering a specific event, and he also brings up really cool things. Like he talks about the Hirogen incident from Voyager, which leads them to ask about Janeway, even though at the time of the star date that he gave, she would have been admiral, but she would have been the only one that had met the Hirogen because they were in
why
the
is
Delta
that
Quad.
relevant?
Well, it's not real. It's just okay, fine. Then he talks to him about the episode Darmok, where he talks.
Right. Why is that
I
relevant?
think that might be what's happening right here. Damn, man, do you just not like joy? Good
No,
Lord.
it's nothing about that. But you're asking me like the reason I'm going fast is because you always get mad at me for taking too long.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to make a slideshow or something next time. I'll clip out. Never mind. Anyway, go ahead.
Some keyframes.
Keyframes. There you go.
So then we have the rest of the crew coming into 10 forward bar holodeck thing and asking if it's a private simulation, which, boy, could you imagine if Picard said, yes, get out? That would, we want to die, just the two of us here. But he says, no, come on in. Now, the interesting thing about this scene, though, and you weren't here, but me and Jace were talking about it. There's a Vulcan that comes in with him who's very out of Vulcan character. And it just really seemed weird because this Vulcan keeps being very touchy-feely, console-y with everybody. And why, I don't know. I mean, it was just some extra who they put, made dressed up like a Vulcan.
But unless he's like half Romulan or
Romulan,
actually
yeah.
Romulan, yeah. That's about the only excuse I'm going to hand him. But it did kind of catch. It was like, eh.
Yeah, it just really felt weird, because
fortunately they were just panning across.
I hope we're going to be okay. So Picard ends up telling the story of his dad. Meanwhile, of course, down in sickbay, they're still counting, and Seven has got the bucket, and she's like, needs to get it scanned because even though this has never happened before in the history of Trek, apparently now when they're in slime mode, they leave residue, and if you get a sample of the residue, you can scan for them, even though that's not how changelings have ever worked before. But I guess these changelings do.
I always thought there was a little bit of like,
no, that was
kind of residue, liquidy looking thing when Odo,
this is the one thing that I'll definitely be nerdy on, and that is because of how much time they spent in DS9 during the Dominion War dealing with these guys. Mm-hmm. They figured out how to expose changelings, and that was with some kind of a specific kind of a phaser sweep. So all you basically got to do is just sweep the damn halls or rooms and Bob's your uncle, the changeling's screwed. He's going to be exposed, and there you go. And they even had an entire episode of DS9 where there was a whole let's run through the station and try to make sure we can actually sweep the whole place as fast as possible. This is the only, like, generally speaking, I can tolerate what's going on in here, but if I was going to nitpick, this is the biggest nitpick, is that they already knew how to deal with this. And I don't know why they chose this.
They made a very big deal out of the fact that a changeling in any form is completely undetectable by scanners. Like if a changeling decides to become a bulkhead and you scan it with your tricorder, it scans as a bulkhead. It doesn't, so even if you have a sample of the changeling's residue from sleeping, it would still just scan as a bulkhead. So having residue isn't going to help you. And so, yeah, this makes no sense. But then this dude apparently is the changeling, and Seven shoots this guy 3 times, 3 confirmed good hits, one of which vaporizes his arm, and the other 2 good chest hits. And Jason and I were watching this together. You can confirm these hits, correct, Jason?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And she burned his arm off on the first one.
Yeah. First hit completely evaporated his arm. The other 2 were chest hits. But he kept, but then after the 2 chest hits, he just decided to turn into a goo pile and leave through the vent. And so there he goes through the vent.
Now, I gotta say, I am not a fan of the like boneless pork butt snot look thing for the changelings. It's just not good.
It looks more realistic, though, to me. That seems like it would be more like what they should look like. And of course, down in sickbay, they're still counting, and in 10 forward, they're still talking. And I think this is where Picard starts telling the deeper story of Jack.
Of his the thing where they set up the fact that we get a setup and payoff right here. They set up the fact that Picard knows how to has experience flying blind. So later, when Riker,
the big payoff of Picard saying, the F word.
Well, I wouldn't call that a payoff, but yeah.
I was so offended by that line.
Yeah, I was.
I seriously came this close to just turning it off. I hated that line.
What makes me mad is the fact that it was an ad lib. No, like Patrick Stewart has. Okay, so like we got the Patrick Stewart show the first 2 seasons. That wasn't Picard. That was Patrick Stewart.
Right.
So for the most part, we've been getting Picard back. I hate that they let him sneak in Patrick Stewart in this scene. He did not need the F-bomb.
Right.
It was
and this is where I think Bert is right in his rant that Patrick Stewart really doesn't like Picard, and he just doesn't want to be Picard. He's doing this kind of begrudgingly.
Hey, I am having a child-related thing. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
Having a child-related thing.
What's funny is you could even actually extend this, and we'll kind of just sit here and dwell for a second, because this is kind of a funny observation. When you consider that Patrick Stewart took the job originally in 1986 on a lark and expected it to last a season.
Right. He didn't really...
And he didn't really respect anything other than he knew he would come in, he would do the job that he was being paid to do, and that was it. And he was all serious. And if you even check in with any of the videos from any of the cons where everyone talks about things, they all say that for the first good while, Stewart was, Mr. Captain Professional, and everybody else was there to have fun at the same time as do filming. So yeah, I think long term, I think there's a strong possibility that Patrick Stewart became very frustrated with being typecast as he's Captain Picard for the rest of his life.
Well, and look at it, yeah, and it shows in his performance in the first season. Look at how he was in the first season compared to
Yeah,
when
the
he
first
really
two seasons
got
even.
into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. In case you were wondering, my
Oh,
yeah, I was
good.
just going to ask
Okay.
you.
my ex-wife abused the emergency. She just our daughter did not get into LVA, and that was
Okay.
that's you could have texted me that. Like, scare me like that. I was just like,
Yeah.
All right. So Bird points out that if you go frame by frame, and she doesn't vaporize the changeling's arm, but it turns to liquid.
yeah, and according to
Okay.
Chat GPT, it says it is worth noting that the abilities and limitations of changelings have varied somewhat throughout the Star Trek series and films. For example, in some instances, they may leave behind residue or evidence of their presence when they change shape, but in general, the liquid state of a changeling does not leave any physical residue. So,
Well, but that's irrelevant. My point is
well, I know.
that
I just feel like they have wiggle
Yeah.
room, but it's not like 100%.
Yeah.
but even
you
if
know?
they leave behind a residue, that wouldn't give you the ability to detect them. It would only say they were here at some point.
Well, maybe
wouldn't-
technology's changed in the last 30 years or so. I don't know.
Anyway, so Picard and him are having this conversation that was pretty intense and unfortunately ruined by the F-bomb. And then this happens.
Which otherwise this would have been a good scene because he even makes the joke about like the whole like, so you were going to get laid,
Right.
Jack says something like that.
Yeah.
They basically borrowed a shuttlecraft to go get some poon,
Right.
Yeah.
And so then Shaw comes in and takes what was a bad scene with Picard dropping the F-bomb and turns it into an absolute disaster.
I love this scene. This gives us so much motivation for this character.
No, it ruins the character. This absolutely destroys the character of Shaw. And
Danny's gonna leave this stream just confused.
Please don't leave here, Danny, because hear me out. And because this is exactly what I predicted 3 weeks ago. Because I said that Shaw was a great captain, and Shaw, up to this scene, was a great captain. Everything Sean did was for the protection of his ship and his crew until this scene. They turned him into Captain effing Ahab, and now they're saying,
they didn't.
"Yep, he's been bad all along."
No, he hasn't been bad all along.
Yes, they have, and in fact, he flat out says it. He flat out says it after this scene. He tells everybody that he's an a-hole. He flat out says it.
No, what he did, it doesn't. Okay, like look. Just because he makes the comment that sorry guys, at some point in time my charm turned to asshole or whatever. It's something similar to that.
It's basically like that. Yeah.
And but he wasn't being being Ahab or whatever. He was just like, you want to know why I don't, or like he starts it out with like, do you remember the first time we met or something like that? Or has your old man told you the story about the first time we met?
How we met? Yeah.
Yeah, and and of course he's talking about Wolf 359. So immediately it's like there's direct parallels here with him and Cisco from the first episode of DS9 with Cisco saying exactly the same thing. Where he's like, we've actually met before,
Cisco
sir.
was at least composed. This guy was straight up.
Well, this guy also prefaced this with he's like high on painkillers, which I can relate to. So he's a little bit more inhibited or whatever. His inhibitions have been lowered. So I mean, dude, over 11,000 people, and God knows how many, at least 150 some odd friends of his.
And it's been 20 plus years, and Picard is.
Have you not ever had like a traumatic experience like that? I mean, probably not like that, but like let's say you're like in a Vietnam War vet, and while you're in Vietnam, like what's that line Rambo has where he's like holding his friends together, to keep their entrails inside while they're waiting for a medic, and like that's bothering him 20 years, like serious stuff. does
I understand, but you know
bother
what?
you.
If he is
You
that
know, and he's
traumatized
got survivor's
hold on.
guilt.
If he is
you know,
that traumatized by Wolf 359, he has no business being a starship captain.
Oh, well, then tell that to Cisco.
Well, you know what?
Tell that to
Cisco
Cisco.
got over it.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
After,
well, I don't know.
After,
I don't
okay,
know.
I don't know if he really did, but first of all, at least they had that moment, because now that he's gotten this off of his chest,
Because Cisco,
later when Picard comes to his quarters to ask for help and makes that little, we need a dipshit mechanic or whatever, or a grease monkey, and the look on Beverly's face was priceless. She was like thought I was about to start something, because she wasn't privy to this conversation. And then what does Shaw do? He's like, they're realistically addressing issues and in real time kind of getting over them. Dude, if this were Discovery, he'd have been like he was in this episode for an entire season.
I'm not. First of all,
No,
thank
no,
you.
but
hold on. First of all, he says direct parallels. Direct parallels. Shaw draws between Seven and Picard. Shaw openly now becomes obvious as to why. Shaw openly mocks his first officer on his ship, which we saw in episode 1.
Yes, and we see the growth of their relationship.
That is unprofessional and inappropriate behavior, and in fact, it's illegal behavior. Shaw should be busted out of the service.
We're talking about science fiction, right? Fiction.
I'm talking about bad writing. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think it's bad
writing, but that's fine. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah. And let's see. Yeah, and thank you, England DG. Thank you. Right there. It's great drama, but professional military officers at 06 level do not act like this.
But
and
I will
that's
say,
what you don't understand. This is not a captain.
But this is a show.
I'm going. Not a captain.
Look, I have all the respect in the world for our service men and women, but sadly, which is why we should reinstate the draft. 1 to 2% tops of our population here in America
are familiar.
Yeah. So they're making this for people like me who don't fucking get what you're. Sorry, I've been doing so good about who don't get what you're talking about or why that would be an issue. So while that might be a thing,
dear,
best comment ever. But that's why you see Darren was enlisted. So
Oh, is that what?
Yeah,
is? Okay.
So. Yeah, no. Look, for me, there's drugs are in play, and bad decisions get made when drugs are in play, and they're in a high stress situation.
Yeah.
And they think they're about to die, and there's a changeling still running around.
They think they're about to die. That's really key.
And it's clear that this guy is a Borgist. And by the way, for the record,
Borgist,
he's a dick to Seven, but by the book. So he's not out of line.
Yeah.
Because by the book, if you're going to use your book, unless she goes out of her way to change her legal name with Starfleet,
right?
She's Annika Hansen. Suck it. That's
no. He's correct. So, I will say this: he's correct in insisting that she call herself Hansen, but when he was when he was making the snide comment about her Borg friends and stuff, that was completely out of line.
You know what I really like about this? Do you notice how he's low key just giving him the finger this entire tirade?
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. No, that's his. Is it his index or is his?
That's his middle finger.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see.
Yeah.
But he is.
Because you can see the other knuckle bent in. You can see the pointer finger knuckle bent down.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, I really loved his character until this scene. And this scene
I think you're being a little too absolutes here, man. With like Sith Lord absolutes.
What is
Jason
with
brought
you
up
and absolutes?
because that's what you're doing. That is what you're doing. You're not taking into consideration, maybe you could have the greatest military person ever, but if you put him in this situation, what this man has been through, and now he's facing certain death, and
I
you know what? Yeah, I'm going to
understand,
get
but-
this off my chest. You Borg punk mother effer, you killed all my friends, you killed over 11,000 people, and now that we're going to die because of you, I'm going to make sure you know how I feel. It seems totally real to me. And
That's
I'm not
because
getting that
you've never
excited. I was just
served.
trying to imitate,
I know,
Yeah,
but
but again, that's yeah, I know. But this is the problem, right? Like okay, so I'll put it this way, okay? So
that's like if you were
I-
making a movie about Canada and you put everybody was just riding moose and drinking maple syrup.
First of all,
Because
you can't.
that's what
You can't ride moose. Didn't I have this
Yeah,
conversation?
you know
figured
that
that out
now.
yesterday.
But I'm saying if you're making, you see, but that's because we showed you what a moose looks like. But when you're making a movie, you just make your movie where everybody in Canada is riding a moose to work and drinking a bottle of maple syrup because that's what you think Canadians do.
No,
You
no,
think
no,
this is a
no,
realistic
No.
depiction? No, you think this is a realistic
Oh.
depiction of a military officer in a high
First of
stress
all,
situation.
Actually, you know what?
Never happened.
That's the problem. That's actually the misunderstanding. We don't. Danny and I are not doing that.
Yeah,
And that is actually the point. Because if we're going to get down to, if we're worried about continuity issues causing things to be a complete disaster, because, if you watch Bird's video, he's just on fire. Some things he's right about, some things maybe not so much.
I'll check it out.
Well, Bird thinks this is a great scene.
It was
But he
a great
loves the
scene.
I think it's great. I think it's way over the top, but I absolutely love it. And the over attribution of the military thing, I don't know. I mean, I'm a huge military history nut and a huge fan of what people who voluntarily go into the service do. But I also know where my fiction lies, because I'll use a video game reference out of this, but people always complain about video games not being realistic enough. Yeah, well, when your character dies after one bullet, that's no fun anymore.
Right.
So
I understand that,
yeah.
but what we're talking about here is and by the way, thank you.
Super chat.
BK Dan says the only absolute that's acceptable is absolute vodka. Is you had a character, and I really, and you guys have heard me talk about Shaw these last 3 weeks.
Mhm.
I really like the character of Shaw, but I was so worried all along that they're going to set Shaw up to be a broken character somehow. That they're going to make it so that, and that's what they're doing. Oh, okay, he's got PTSD from Wolf 359. That explains why he's just such a terrible person. But he's not a terrible person. He's a great captain. But now they're trying to make it out that no, he's been a terrible person.
It doesn't make him a terrible person because
No, you don't understand, Danny. The writing, and this is what you're missing about this. The writing, the perspective of the writing. I guarantee, unfortunately, I'm not the popcast, so I'll never have Terry Metalis on this show. But if Terry Metalis were here and I could get him to give an honest answer, he would say that this character is supposed to be a terrible person.
No, he wouldn't. I don't.
I
think he's just a troubled person.
Yeah.
Well, fine, a troubled person, whatever you want to call it. He's not a good captain. But
I disagree. He's always
a perfect captain.
He is a good captain. He's always thinking about his ship. I think I don't know. Let's agree to disagree and move along.
Let's just keep on going because we're never gonna. This is unresolvable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys are just too wrong. I understand.
No.
Hey man.
And so Picard leaves in shame, which is something that
you missed it. Jack tried to stand up for him, and Picard's like, no, it's
yeah,
fine.
no,
And then he leaves. And then that's where Shaw's funny line about
I replaced a hole for having charm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's after this, where everybody's just staring at him, and that's
Yeah,
the
like
thing. His own crew now is looking at him with absolute disdain. So
well, I'll go with
he's lost the respect of his own crew.
I mean, I think that that's a lot of assumption on your part, but
What do you mean? Look at them.
to
That's
me
not
they
what
look like they're
I'm
in
saying.
shock.
yeah, I am looking at it on my screen
That
here.
they have lost respect for him,
No,
and he knows it. And at this point, I don't think he cares.
I just think they're all going to die. So there's that.
Yeah, because he figures they're all about to die anyway. So then Beverly suddenly says, "Hey, guess what? The nebula's preggers." And it's, and I'm sorry, you know what?
Yeah, that looks like shock.
I get
shock.
it. Painkillers, I've taken so many painkillers,
Oh,
painkillers.
asshole became a substitute for
I
charming.
literally
is the
take,
exact-
Yeah.
I know what painkillers are. They don't make you go effing crazy. They might make you say something that you really believe. All right. Anyway,
I thought we were
you're
past
still
that.
responsible for
Yeah.
what you say.
I wasn't saying he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so the nebula is pregnant and having contractions. So, I think it's dilated to something like 500 meters or something. Hey, Cece. And so Picard's like, I didn't do it this time. And so, sorry. I
No, it's
didn't
not.
do it.
It's not just that. I've been wearing headphones since 11:30 a.m. So it's starting to like.
Oh, well,
Oh, you're getting the headphone headache, yeah.
Yeah.
cry me a river,
Yeah,
mister.
yeah.
I'm too good for you.
What?
Oh,
What the
okay.
heck, man? You're so like. You're on one today, buddy.
And so then Riker's like, yeah, this is a really stupid idea that you're having. And so now, then we get into this sequence, and this feels, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm perfectly willing to be wrong about this, but it feels like, again, we're getting way out of character, and they're stretching this out just for runtime here. Why is Riker so opposed to their plan?
My personal thought is he simply wants to survive as long as possible. He is so desperate to not die that it's clouding him of his openness to any other options.
But his plan to not die will kill them in a few
okay.
hours.
So I actually kind of have a very opposite take. So let me ask you something. What is it that changes his mind in this scene? Something very specific. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
For me, it basically switches
for the character. Like what?
Yeah, when Beverly invokes Deanna Troi.
Thank you.
Right.
That's exactly how I put it earlier. So I think the reason it took that was because I feel like this Riker had given up hope. He'd already said goodbye to Picard. He says, "This is the end, my friend." Just like and he couldn't do a message to Dean. I think we're seeing a deeply defeated and depressed man because
he's just ready to die.
Yeah, and he's just ready to die. And then Beverly reminds him of what he has to live for. And his whole demeanor changes. Like I wish we could play a little bit. Like after she mentions his wife, he can, his whole demeanor changes to where like, all right, let's do this, like kind of thing.
Yeah,
he does. His head jumps up.
See those model ships on the wall.
Yeah, his head pops hard when she says Deanna. And then she does the let's rebuild the team speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Well,
after
let's
that,
do what
basically.
we used to be great at.
Yeah.
And then look
Yeah.
at him. And then right there, he just spins around, walks off, looks at the bridge.
And then, I love how he still does the little. His head kind of goes down when he takes
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
He's been doing that forever.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ignored with a $1 tip. Thank you, Ignored.
Super chat.
And says, what's with every show when death is 90% likely to the characters say that plan could kill us? I mean, what's the difference if it's going to make them die a little quicker or prolong it? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like you've got 4 hours to live, and here's a plan that could get you out. And you say, nah.
Or at least be glorious in its attempt.
Yeah, right.
And the thing that was really out of character for me as far as Riker was he actually goes, well, Starfleet regulations is that we wait here to be rescued. Who's going to come and rescue you in a nebula
that's what Picard
outside of
says.
Federation space?
Yeah. Yeah. No one's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it made no sense whatsoever to just sit there and wait to die. And so it's like, why not go for it? So then their plan means that they have to open up the exhaust manifold on both the nacelles, because the nacelles on this brand new starship are 20
It's not a brand
years
new, it's a
old.
refit. That's why there's the dash. This is a refit. They
The
made that clear.
Constitution 3
They
is
they made it clear that this was
yeah,
a refit.
we saw what the Luna class ship looked like. This is a refit in the same level that the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Motion Picture was a refit. This is an entirely new ship.
Yeah, but some of the things were that's why he was saying.
Yeah, but the warp
kept,
nacelles are not from the original ship. These are not.
Are they saying the nacelles? I don't think they say the nacelles were what's a. But anyway, this is
if you've seen the Titan from before, they're not the same warp engines. And so trust me, look on the Titan shows up. The original Titan shows up in Lower Decks. You can see it there. But it's not the same ship. And so, and actually, England DG, the Enterprise refit did not break down all the time. That was the Enterprise A, which was not a refit. But anyway,
correct. Yeah, the Enterprise.
That's
A
a whole
was
different ship.
Whole new ship.
Yeah.
That was actually a different ship, and they just slapped Enterprise A on it.
Right. But let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. Yeah. So this ship has brand new warp engines that are 20 years old that can go warp 9.9. Think about that. These warp engines are old enough to where they've been around back when. So if they're 20 years old, that's about the time of what? The end of.
Or not Beverly. It was. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's about the time of like Deep Space Nine, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but remember, yeah. Well, we don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I started going on at you with a bunch of stuff with this too before.
Right. But
which is
they were building fast.
Yeah, but they were building ships out of all kinds of crazy stuff to be able to deal with the Dominion War, and then
let's just say that it's probability drive.
It's a little funky.
Yeah,
we'll just call it that.
And there's no engineers.
Yeah, now that's the one thing that's a little on the odd side for me still is why I know that they need Shaw to be the guy, but how is there like nobody on board that knows how to go do maintenance on those things?
Right.
Hold up.
Yeah, they literally have no engineers on the ship. Danny's saying hold.
I think he's listening to it, yeah. Just to see exactly what they're saying, because it is a.
You guys keep. You're 1 second.
Sorry.
The inner workings of the nacelle shields is what he said. It was over 20 years old.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The
So it's
inner
a
work.
20-year. So it could be a 20-year-old design that was refined to be able to do higher speed.
You know, added
Yeah,
to
that
So-
makes
modify.
sense.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the tech. But my weirdness is with the fact that it happens to only be him that. Is
yeah, I mean,
aware of
you
it.
know, it's a plot device, man. You know.
It makes, but it makes no sense that these ships have no engineers. I mean, I still don't buy that one bit. And this apparently is the entirety of the engine room, I guess. So, because there's nowhere else. And apparently disconnecting the manifolds. I don't know why he's in there with the tools and everything, because those two glowy bits, you just pull those apart and that's all he has to do. I mean,
Well, after he has to do some other stuff, you know.
well, they pretend to do some other stuff. I
Well,
think
yeah,
he does that.
well, it is acting, so it is all pretend. I mean,
It's
after-
acting.
like,
So they
this is where
realize,
he's like, if the changeling really wanted to screw us, they would.
yeah,
this
this,
is where they
this
would
would be
do
a
it.
Show
great
up
time
right
for
now.
Changeling to show up,
So this is where they plan a trap.
yeah.
So
And BK with another $2. Thank you so much, BK.
super chat.
Because I expected Shaw to call Hanson 7 in the scene. You know,
I don't think they're there yet.
I
No,
hope he
no.
never calls her 7. If he calls her 7, his character is completely destroyed. As it is, his character is severely damaged for me. But if he actually breaks down and calls her 7, his character is completely just done. Because that's just showing that so he no longer cares about rules and regulations as much as, touchy feelies. And that's not good. Oops. What the heck
Good,
happened? Oh, it just happened to be on a commercial break there.
yeah.
Whew, scared me. All right, so they're getting ready to do their big plan because the contractions are getting close. The Nebula's moaning and cursing. I don't know what impregnates a Nebula. What a Mabula.
No, I think what it is, because we like the idea of it being full circle. Like this is essentially the final. My mom was calling it season 8. I think this is more like this is a 10-hour movie. It would have been like a miniseries special event back in the 90s or whatever. That is bringing full circle. So their first episode is saving the squid grown version of the squid creatures who are gonna like mate, and maybe when they mate they just leave, because I didn't get that whole like vaginal thing you were saying. It's like they leave it, they leave like a big thing.
They're inside. She said they're in a womb.
She doesn't know, man. She's just making the best
She
metaphor
said
she can.
it.
She said, she said we're in the amniotic, the equivalent.
Yeah,
of
she
the
said they're
amniotic.
in amniotic
Okay, so
fluid.
where? Okay,
They're
then
in
hold
a
up.
womb.
If
They're
there was
having contractions.
okay, time out. This isn't going to work. We're going to talk over each other. If there was a mother or whatever giving birth, where the hell is the thing at the end of the episode? No, I think this was just like, you know how like some creatures they leave
it's a
like
multi-dimensional
a big old sack of
giant
like
lady thing.
tons of like eggs and stuff. I think don't like turtles do.
Yeah,
that or something?
well, even like a spider puts them in a web ball.
Yes,
Yeah,
but you know what? Web sacks and turtle piles don't have contractions.
Well,
Yeah, but
dude,
these aren't
this is
spiders.
Science fiction.
Yes,
dude.
but you know what? This is some multi-dimensional
He-
being.
He secretly dislikes this episode even more than he said to me. You must.
Because here's the
This-
thing, man.
No,
This is
no,
like, I feel like I'm
hold on.
arguing with one of my friends, but you're me, and I'm like maybe you in this instance, and we're arguing about wrestling. I'm like,
No, don't you ever invoke wrestling at me.
Ow.
Oh, okay, fine.
So
No, you-
no, hear me out. She calls it a womb. She calls the nebula amniotic fluid. She mentions that these power fluctuations are contractions. Everything.
Well, she's comparing it to that.
She's not
And
just comparing it. It is literal. There are babies at the end. The
Yeah.
only now
And
you're
where's
saying,
the
well,
mom?
where's the mom? The mom is some interdimensional being, so it just goes to another plane of existence as it gives birth. So what? You know what? We've seen crap like that in Star Trek before.
All right.
You know, so the only part of mom that was ever in our dimension was her space vagina for whatever
Oh
reason.
God, stop using that. It's making me uncomfortable. Good Lord.
Well, you know what? You better get used to it. It's biology, space biology.
Space biology. It was
Yep.
it was a nebula.
No, it's not. It's a
Spaceology.
space vagina.
Spaceology. Yeah. All right. So now,
he
So
pulls out the
fixie
first
trap here.
yeah.
Now you can see what he's actually doing is trying to wire a Polar Lights Enterprise model. And so then he's getting ready to wire the other side. And look who shows up. Little Geordie.
Oh yeah.
So she shows up.
Why does
and-
Kadish call her Crash LaForge? Is that from something?
Yes, that's what they called her in episode 1.
Yeah, when Riker embarrassed the crap out of her.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because her dad
LaForge.
was, or I mean,
You
not her
watched
dad,
the
but her
show
mom
twice.
Her mom was
Yeah.
Rogan. And BK with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much.
Super chat.
Because it gave live birth to, in my opinion, the same species as
I'm
the
agreeing
one
with you.
Encounter PowerPoint.
Yes, I agree with you, BK Dan. That's why, because I think they came full circle.
And it did it from another dimension.
Yeah.
They were in the giant space vagina of a thing that gave birth to those little space squids.
That is a gorgeous ship, though. I had it paused at a different point. Anyway, I like this scene. It's clever. We get the payoff as to why it
I'm
mattered.
talking about space vaginas, and you're saying payoffs. You should probably choose your words more carefully.
Well, we can't put this nebula down, can we?
Yeah,
Phrasing.
So she's
Well, what I
like,
was about
"Oh
to say,
yeah,
though-
I can help.
Yeah, never mind.
Let me help you." And he's like, "Okay, give me that torch." Which is like, if you're at all suspicious of her, why would you say, "Give me the thing that you could burn my face off"?
Because he knows. Like, dude, there's a if you can catch it right, the second.
Because it's like moments afterward. Phaser to the head.
You will know, like the exact same time she gives the creepy evil smile, the phaser shows up. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I just
really-
played it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, look at that. Like, oh snap! But right before that look was a evil, sinister.
Right. So
Yeah.
so then this time 7 is like, okay, you got. She's like, "Commander, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Commander who?" And she's like, "Commander Hansen." Boom. Because she doesn't call her 7, which is what she usually calls her. Now, but this time, for some reason, a single shot kills her. Even though
She probably had it on the highest setting this time. She probably just had it on the.
that's what Jason tried. What, she had it set to stun earlier when
No,
it was
she just didn't
blowing
have it set to
holes in
kill
it?
because there's multiple settings. I've got to, anyway. And like that phaser's like that looks like a. Is that the same phaser she was using earlier?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Anyway,
just like that we had set up that wasn't unnecessary when LaForge goes to visit Seven
by the
in her
way,
quarters.
Since
and
when
call-
do let me pull this down for a second because I want to find the shot.
Yes, the highest setting does leave ashes. This was a point of contention earlier, so we're thinking these might be somehow altered changelings because we never seen that whole cut your hand off to talk to somebody thing before either.
Well, that's assuming she's a changeling. We don't even know for sure she is.
I mean, I know for sure that she is.
Well, okay. So you've seen the whole series now, then?
No, but somebody who has already kind of let that slip. So
Okay. Well, thanks for the spoiler.
Woohoo,
Amen.
I was right. My first suspicion.
You could
cut your hand
have
off.
not given the spoiler. That
cut
would have
your
been
hand
nice.
off. Like when Worf phasered the other changeling. Yeah, he did turn to dust when Worf did it, right?
All right.
So
Right,
something
yeah,
weird.
so-
Did they not hang on to it long enough? Like
This
or-
has never happened before.
Yeah, they've never stayed exactly as they were in their
Yeah.
last form.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on, but it's
Yeah.
it's off script.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. This whole thing with the like you say, the terrorist link cell
Well,
thing is
this whole thing when they fade away, like the last, because I just played it, and I wish they would have gone back. I'm gonna keep playing it, but she gets bright red,
I know she turns
And then-
into
and
what
then
looks like
and
the
they-
goo, but then she turns into this.
and they cut away. Here, I'll just keep. Anyway, I don't know. Like I have a question about this too. Hopefully, it will be addressed.
Well,
Brian
yeah.
seemed to be pretty intense about it on Twitter this morning that everything does have a place throughout the entire series
Yeah.
or the whole season. Sorry, so
Yeah.
maybe there's more answers coming on a lot of this stuff that
I'm
they
sure
you
there's
haven't even heard.
I'm sure there's not a reason for the ambassador class ship sitting in the foreground of that one shot.
Well, remember they have Fleet Day coming up, so
Yeah. So yeah, so
or
he says,
Frontier Day.
good call. And so then they do their whole thing to ride the wave, which I'm actually surprised they didn't play some Beastie Boys music while they were riding the wave.
This isn't Jay. Dude, I don't. Man, you were really throwing.
He was
You know
not
what?
happy with this episode.
I would say so far, except for every single episode has opened up with classic rock music. So why not? And everybody says, "Oh, this is a return to true Trek." Since when does Trek have classic rock music?
Hey, don't you remember Vic Fontaine?
Vic Fontaine was never in the Next Generation.
He's
like
in the
saying-
TNG era.
He's in the TNG era. That's
No,
like those.
He's not in the Next
my-
Generation, is
Yeah,
he?
he's in Deep Space Nine.
He's not in the Next Generation.
What,
is
dude?
he?
Somebody else was getting hung up on that, and that is really
And
irritating.
besides, Vic
There- oh, yeah,
Fontaine
okay, yeah, there's
is
some
in classic
YouTuber-
rock. He's more like he's a crooner.
Yeah.
Now, man, I could say something awful terrible that's not even actually that impolite.
Yeah. What's that?
Don't make Doomcock right.
Yeah.
Da.
It wasn't that
You
bad.
mean dumbcock?
Well, yeah, but
No, we are not. Look, we are not going to stoop down to his level and start.
Yeah,
using
well, yeah.
names. We're not going to do that.
okay. He's already named himself handily.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike does not like this episode a lot.
It's so weird, man. I like.
See, right here, we should have the sabotage playing.
No. Total.
Can't you
wrong
see
vibes.
it? It's suck it in that juice and playing the Beastie Boys.
Why? So you could bitch and complain about that?
Look
no,
right
thank you.
here. You just gotta have
No.
that playing as it's riding the wave.
And I like. What
and
does he tell Picard? What's he say to LaForge? Like gun it. I think he says gun it.
yeah, see,
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's perfect Beastie Boys.
I really like the fact that we get father and son working together right before they hop on the wave.
Yeah, which makes no sense. My sensors
Jesus
are down.
Christ.
Oh no, quick, get on your sensors. Okay.
It's not that he's manually doing it, giving him the.
Yeah, and how is he getting the coordinates? By looking on sensors. You're muted, Jason. Jason.
You jumped over why I have my background. Although Danny probably already knows why,
Yeah.
if he recognizes it. Do you recognize my background today, Danny?
Yeah, it's what? Vatic? Oh, it kind of looks like our. Behind
No?
her kind of looks like our thing.
No?
No, what?
What sound plays?
Oh! That back. I thought you. I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah,
thing.
no, my background. Yeah.
Yeah. Duck again.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that?
It's the infinitely complex self-destruct
Oh,
from Alien.
from Alien. Okay, yeah, that's
Because of the sound, because it is. I went actually and I
Yeah.
checked. I fired up Alien and I had the two shows at the right spot, and I kept playing it. And they, instead of a Roddenberry or a Memberberry, it was a science fiction homage.
yeah. So yeah, the Nostromo alarm or whatever, but the
Yeah, the self-destruct Nostromo, get
yeah,
off my boat.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you really should have like. I wish you could edit your tweets without having to pay $8 a month because I was like, episode 3, what?
3, yeah, oh man, I know. I was like, "Where's the dang edit button?" I immediately replied afterwards because I was like, whoops." I mean, episode 4.
All right. We're going on a tangent here.
Sorry.
So we have
We're making good time.
Vedic, who is now going into full Christopher Plummer mode, and and then spinning around in her chair, all excited, and then Riker decides to throw a rock at her, and
Throw crazy crap at you, and I loved that. And I also
I loved it.
the ship
No, I
didn't
loved
die, but I loved it.
it made no sense.
It makes perfect sense. They set it up in the first episode where, or the whatever second episode, first
Yeah.
or second, where LaForge says, my dad theorized that could happen, and then they saw like, okay, so it can happen. So then Riker, being the strategical, guy that he is, he's like, oh, well, I can do this,
And he's back on his game, right?
Yeah, and he's because he had to get smacked in the face with his
But Mike is unconvinced.
No, I am totally unconvinced, because they were all completely blown away by the idea that her tractor.
Where's the? Are we
I'm getting in.
Are we
I'm
done?
getting in.
Oh, okay.
Just give me a minute. I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to get to the exact same spot that me and Jason were looking at earlier.
Oh yeah, that's gotta be
It'll be a miracle if I can get that exact same spot.
Oh man, he had like the perfect frame earlier, Danny. It was
pretty
awesome.
close, not exact, but pretty close.
What are we looking for here?
Oh, just before it hit.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So he's got it when it's actually splody looking with the rock there, and it just looks perfect.
Yeah. So that rock. Okay, so she threw a ship that was basically a glorified runabout at the Titan, and he throws a rock that is at least 10 times the mass of the Shrike.
Yeah, that was my my conflicted moment with this whole scene, which is why I said that at the start.
Not only that, hits the ship dead center, and the ship is not disintegrated.
The pokey bits actually didn't get crushed, so I guess someone should call the CG guys and say, "What?"
I mean, is the ship made out of neutronium?
I mean, it's a pretty solid ship. Here, I think I got what you were wanting.
Well, no, it's okay. I'll play it in a second. I'm just saying.
I went through the trouble. It's right here. You can show it real quick. I mean, it's just isn't the thing.
It's all right. We're gonna play through it in just a second. This ship, look at that. It's indestructible. Not even though you see flames and all that.
Now, are those flames, or do you think that's like the lighting up of the skin shielding, like on the Starfleet ships?
The spires are still 100% intact.
But do you get what I'm saying? Instead of a blue thing, maybe that's just like the flare up of the shielding.
No, because you do see the blue of her shields. It goes through her shield.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Old Man Salty donated $1.
Super chat.
Thank you, Old Man Salty. It says, back in my day of TOS, they didn't need those fancy tractor beams throwing rocks.
Well, maybe they
sound like an old curmudgeon. That guy got your spirit. Whoever sent that. Got your essence.
That ship should have been completely destroyed.
I mean, Maybe there'll be some explanation later. But I just rewatched this scene a few times. I have not seen any blue shielding.
There's a bit of shimmer around the outer.
No, I think that's
prongy
light.
bits.
That's lighting. It's,
You think?
I
Okay.
think. Yeah, I'm rewatching it. But I do love Beverly's line. Didn't you just throw a rock at a ship?
So we have probably there's no way that ship survives, but they're all happy. Their impulse engines are offline.
You're goddamn
Now,
right.
why-
Did. That was like I love Riker. Yeah.
First of all, please don't say that.
I'm sorry.
But why would the impulse engines be offline? The rock hit the front of the ship
Well,
and apparently didn't do much damage.
I'm
know
talking about it's
it-
a bunch of damage, hemorrhaging power. The core is in critical condition. We're close to meltdown.
What does hemorrhaging power?
Warp
even
core
mean?
is an emergency shutdown. I can't stop it.
Yeah, I know what they say.
yeah,
but the
but,
dialogue makes no sense.
to a certain extent, maybe, but the whole engine's being offline. If you rear end a car, it actually can write off the transmission, even if there's even if because just the shaking of the vehicle can wreck things.
Right.
So, and if I got hit by a rock that size, my engines aren't going to feel so good.
Right? I'm afraid to get to the rating part of this because, I'm really afraid.
Oh, Jason already knows what my rating is. Don't worry,
God.
it's not that bad. It's not great, but it's not that bad.
Okay.
So then they're all happy and smiley, and then they start looking at all the pretty little squids swimming around.
Babies.
With their creepy eyeballs.
Yeah. I was hoping there was going to be no eyes on them, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden there was just like, what's going on?
Really weird, creepy looking eyeballs.
I think just they needed to have somebody go out on the hangar deck with a fishing pole and catch one of them to
You're
to
so
fry
funny.
up.
Hey, is my mom? Do we know if my mom's still in the chat? Because I wanted to point something out to her.
I don't know.
She is.
I don't know.
Well, let me
You
know
still
if
in
you
there,
are, Mom.
Penny?
So the Titan is surrounded by all the squid babies. The space vagina disappears. Everybody's happy.
Stop calling it that. Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's what it is.
No, it's not.
It's just biology, man. That's the proper term.
All right, I guess Captain Fandom Nerd. I put my my link in there that you asked for earlier. I don't know if you got it, but if you do, if I don't already follow you, I'll follow
Then
you
they
back.
decide to go home, and then
this is the
Picard
payoff.
finishes telling his story to
He's not.
the
Yeah.
to
sorry.
the kids. And by the way, you can always tell a television production based on the fact that it's a group of perfectly diverse people that have gathered
All
around.
right, hang tight now. Hey, Star Trek's always been diverse. They're not getting all crazy like Discovery.
No. I'm
So
not
no.
wait,
Hold up for the chat.
No.
Hold up. So, Mom, Lieutenant Tavine, who is the Vulcan science officer, that TV show you had me watch, Young Rock, that actress plays China in that TV show. Vader told me that this morning.
All right.
Okay,
So-
back to you, sir.
Look, I'm not saying Star Trek hasn't always been diverse, but TV now has this thing where if you have a random group of people, they're always perfectly diverse. And this
Do you see Star Trek?
and this is a perfect example of that. Look at this group of people.
Kronos.
Oh God. Star Trek is because back in the day.
Well,
right?
that's from that's from Futurama.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, you don't want to show starches? You're not gonna.
Yeah, Starch's comment is really good considering Riker was Shatner
man.
for the whole TNG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he really should have. Yeah.
Yeah. He was really off his game.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So this scene, it's heartbreaking. The acting's so good. They do the eye because he's remembering this now, And then when he realizes that he had met his son and talked to him and said the absolute worst possible thing he could have in that moment, the acting, the dude's face, Jack's face when he's sitting at the bar, you can see him going from like just a complete devastation. Like, yeah, if you could play a little bit, I don't know if you can, but like,
No, I don't want to take a chance of getting.
I'm at that.
I don't get special permission, so
fair enough. So, you guys should know what I'm talking about. Like, did you notice his face? And, yeah, you already went too far because now this is where he's looking back and he's gone.
Yeah,
here,
it's like a crumbling.
And then on the bridge here, they do this exact same thing they did with Beverly and Picard, where all they do is look at each other and they know, like, oh God. So I like that a lot.
So now,
it was
talking to Troy again about how, hey.
And at first, I didn't know he was talking to her. I thought he was leaving a message. Like, I really did until I saw her face. And like, this scene is so beautiful. This is such a great scene. Because he's like, I don't know how to put it into words, and then he proceeds to put it perfectly into words. You know, I liked it a lot. You didn't like this one either, Mike?
I didn't like it because I think that like I said, the Riker has been out of character for me for this whole episode. So it's like, you know, so then all of a sudden, hey, you know, actually Riker's been kind of out of character this whole series. I mean, ever since
this is 25 years later. I am not the same person I was 25 years ago. Are you?
No, we saw Riker 2 years ago. All right. Don't give me this 25 years later crap. We saw him 2 years ago.
We saw him at home being fat and making pizza. Come on now. That's not the same. We haven't seen how he behaves.
He wasn't sitting there moping around and talking about death. Okay. And so
you don't know what's happened in the last 2 years, you know, since that.
Well, he clearly got separated, so all kinds of stuff happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
haters gonna hate. It's fine.
And BK Dan, have a good one, buddy.
See you, BK.
Sleep. All right. So Riker says goodnight to his wife while we're saying goodnight to BK Dan. And then the episode is ending with Jack having these weird hallucinations about the red door and, you know, what the heck is going on there. To be continued. I'm sure we will find out.
This was a very nice callback, I think, to Picard First Contact, you know, but instead.
Oh, the kind of that waking dream kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my problem, like I said, is that people were out of character.
I mean, I don't.
My biggest problem. I felt like Riker was the most out of character for anybody.
This is the best Riker we've. Are you kidding me? I'm loving. I can't believe how much we're disagreeing on this. I want to see you and either one of the Popcast guys, or I got to get you back on Saturday.
Why?
I don't even want to be on that show.
Riker's out of character, and they'll say no, he wasn't.
No, because you guys are gonna like you and Brian are combustible elements, you know, and you're just like it'll be so entertaining to watch. You know, because me, I give up. I just like, okay, we'll agree to disagree. You know, like if I wasn't like that, I don't think you're the kind of guy that would give up, and I know Brian's not the kind of guy that would give up.
I was gonna say Brian would just throw down. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all in good fun. You know, at the end of the day, it's nice to to be able to say, I'm looking forward to next week's episode.
And then, yeah, like I said,
I am, yeah.
For whatever reason, there's so many things that they did right in episodes 1, 2, and 3 that in this episode it just feels like to me that they kind of dropped the ball.
Well, let's do some stuff I couldn't do on my earlier stream because the dude's already seen it all. What do you think is going on with Jack? What do you think the red door is? What do you think those like weird tentacle vine?
Well, you probably already asked all the questions, so you
no, but he won't. He
told you apparently that what's her name.
No, he let that slip on the stream. He didn't say. He told me. And
yeah, but
all 120 some odd.
Stream. Thanks very much.
I'm sorry, man. What
I don't know.
Is there any question?
Oh yeah, for me, you know, not General Chang is
General
definitely
Chang's
just definitely a change. Like there was just
Yeah.
for me, there was just no question.
Yeah.
Like the cutting off of the hand thing, because they just don't voluntarily give up their bits.
Right.
So, and
So what do you think
as far as the stuff in the door,
Yeah, the
like,
door
do
thing
you
doesn't
think it's
make sense at all.
I have
do you
no
think
idea.
there's some kind of hallucination? Do you think he's got some kind of viral thing? Do you think, like, I mean, it's gotta have something to do with the reason the founders want him. You know,
Okay,
like,
so Brian made a comment on Friday night's stream that I watched on Salty's channel
uh-huh.
that everything on the even in the trail and even in the credits at the end of the episodes that there are little deliberate hint / spoilers.
There are, if I found a few of them in this. There are two. I found two that were paid off in this week's episode.
and they keep showing the brain scan thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can think is somebody did something to Jack.
Or so this is very far fetched, but this is the stuff I was throwing at Brian to see if any of it would stick, and all he would say was fascinating. So they obviously did it long after Picard was a Borg, and so maybe when he impregnated her, they had like little Borg nanites, and he's got like maybe some weird Borg thingies. Or when Beverly went to the planet from Insurrection, right, and they all got their rejuvenation stuff.
Oh, they all got youngified. Yeah,
They all got younger, so maybe there was a complication with the pregnancy and she did some kind of experimental thing and that's caused this, or I have no idea. Like, it could be anything. And who's the voice saying like
because it's a
like,
different voice
"Comfort
than
me"?
when he was seeing Seven in his "I'm coming back to consciousness" in the
Yeah.
previous episode. So I don't know. It's all over the place.
like-
I've
Well,
got
the thing is,
no
with
good.
the door and the weird crimson spreading veiny stuff that doesn't seem to go along with the Borg idea.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm just like,
Yeah,
I was
and-
just
and,
trying to
like,
throw the most wild
I
shit
know
I could at him.
Bird suggested the Borg in the chat, and like it would kind of make sense, like if Locutus had Borg nanites that Dr. Crusher just didn't detect, and so he we'll just say injected some nanites when he
Find
impregnated
me.
her. Huh?
That's what it is. Find me. Who do you think is trying to say it? This time it was a woman's voice. I said, find me.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right,
I
it
know
was-
for me, like visually speaking, the Tenderly stuff on the walls, the only thing that reminds me of is Species 8472 from Voyager.
Yeah.
Right, but what would they have a connection with Picard?
Well, maybe it's not a connection with Picard because the founders don't have a specific connection with Picard, and they're back with a vengeance with this terrorist
See,
cell.
I don't think
And-
I do not think for a minute that the founders are the big bad.
You don't?
Well, that's why.
No, not at all.
really.
I think they're a pawn.
You think this is a bait and switch?
I don't think it's a bait and switch. I just don't think that the founders are the big bad.
Hmm.
I think that they're working for somebody.
Hmm.
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 I think the big bad is yet to be revealed.
I don't know.
That's what my gut tells me.
B4. No, it's
So-
not B4 Kronos.
So, you know what, man? I just thanks to ChatGPT, that's not a bad idea, Jason. Because
don't
it
I don't want
says
to hear
here,
about that.
fine, whatever. So, so it is revealed in Voyager that Species 8472 is actually fighting a war with the Dominion. And the Dominion, the founders. So maybe
When?
You know what?
When?
it's just what it says. It
According
says,
to that,
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe-
chat CP, whatever that's called, is smoking crack.
it can be outrageously confident in the most wrong thing ever. So it's hard to say with it.
I'll check it out.
There's no war between the
I'll do
8472 and the Dominion.
I'll do my due diligence.
Trust me, there's not.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I definitely I'm interested to see what it is. I just hope it's not foolish. I know everyone, like quote unquote,
I
everyone
agree
in the
with
review
you,
world,
England DG, 100%.
according to ChatGPT roll size. Actually, as a side note, to let you know just how broken ChatGPT can be, you can actually ask that thing the exact same question or series of questions, have the conversation mode on 2 separate days. You'll get 2 completely different sets of results.
I actually prefer that. And it also gives you the it also gives you the option. It also gives you the option to like regenerate. So like make it like, give me a different answer. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's a retry or something on the bottom. Yeah. So let's do the scoring.
Yeah,
All right,
Scare
so
me
Danny,
with your score.
10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10? What are you going to
No. What was my score last week? You guys, 7.5, I think. 7.5.
7.5, something like that. Yeah,
Something like
we
that.
started
So
talking about conditional scores.
7.5 out of 10 last week.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
have to like go back and see, but
Or something like that.
I would say yes, whatever I gave it last week, 7.5, something like that. 7.
You'll hold there.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold it there. For me, it was just as good as last week. Maybe a smidge better. So yeah, if last week was 7, this would be 7.5. So
Now for me, mine, I have a 2 score. I have a, if it isn't for the fact that they keep slipping so much swearing into the show,
right,
I'd actually give this thing an 8 because I was grinning like a stupid girl at the end of this.
yeah, right.
But because of all the swearing that they just can't seem to stop putting in the show, that score is a solid point lower and down to a 7.
No, I
because
I really wish.
So
it really bothers me because, like, first of all, saying the S word because I've already cussed too much on the stream. Well, that's you can get away with that in PG. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not too.
That doesn't make it appropriate.
I'm not saying.
Yeah, exactly. No,
I know, I agree, but I'm just saying someone could make that argument. But the F-bomb, no.
Yeah,
no.
that's too much.
And out of Picard's mouth, no. Yeah, I mean, so. Yeah, you know what? No, I'm giving it a 7. It lost half a point. I'm sticking with 7. This gets a 7 because we didn't have any F-bombs.
Yeah, give it that conditional smack. Yeah.
It deserves it. It's kind of like Vader gives a half a point for boobs.
He gives half a point for boobs.
Yeah, he adds if they review a movie and it's bad, if he got to see boobies, he gives it a half a point.
Oh, I saw him talk about that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see him doing that. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go.
Your score.
He's skipping yours.
Yeah, man. Like, what's yours?
You're gonna hide your score, are you?
Do you really want my score?
I do.
Oh,
I want to hold
if
you
it's
accountable.
what he thought he was gonna give it, it ain't pretty.
Yeah. My score has not changed. I'm going to give it a 4.
A 4? Okay.
A 4.
Yeah.
I would say.
I'm surprised you gave it that high as much.
You know what? Honestly, look, there are some good things in the episode, but what really pushed it below the ability to get any entertainment out of it was Picard saying the F word. That just absolutely ruined it for me.
It really was unnecessary.
Yeah, I could, even though I complained a lot about Riker and his him being out of character, I could at least enjoy it as a below average TNG episode for me. I understand some people think it's great, but that's fine. That's subjective.
Oh man, I forgot that people were in my sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I could enjoy it as a subpar TNG episode until Picard opened up his mouth and said that. Then it's like, I'm done. I
yeah,
can't.
no,
I
that
can't enjoy this.
and I talked about that this morning. That really
Yeah.
bothered me. And he's like, "Yeah, well, that was an ad lib." I was like, "Cool." Like, tell him to stick to the script and reshoot it. But I do want to say I wasn't paying attention to my chat. I was only in yours. So, hey, CC baby, thank you for stopping by. Anthony Mark said something funny. He goes, 11,000 deaths at Wolf 359 and 7 million deaths in the Dominion War. Let's move on. And I want to say hi to Sox. I want to say hi to Sox Bulletin. Thanks for stopping by my channel, man. But the real chat is, until I get bigger. This is more for me to build content for replay. But the live show,
And how many billions did Picard save after that?
billions.
Well, let's not forget, in First Contact, Picard literally saved the entire Federation.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
that should count for a little something.
For something.
You know.
Something.
That's why I'm calling Captain Shaw a Borgist.
Yeah. See, well, that's the thing. Like I
Aren't
said, I
we all?
love Captain Shaw until this episode. You know?
I don't know. 7 of 9 convinced me to be welcoming of everyone.
Don't say it, Danny. I know you were
No,
thinking
I'm on good
something
behavior.
bad.
No, I'm on good behavior.
No.
I'm
right.
actually.
I'm the one who's off the
You
rails.
better stay on good behavior, Danny. Trust me. You
I
need
am,
to
man.
stay
No,
on-
no.
You
trust-
better. You
I
better.
am.
If you don't, I will come there and punch you in the face.
Okay. And I have a really.
I want
punchable
tickets for
face,
that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So with that, you gotta remember, guys, you're the salt of the earth. Jason is Canadian, so take that for what it is. Danny is,
A dork. Just say a dork. It's easy. You don't have to insult.
I don't
me.
want to say a dork because that's kind of insulting to dorks,
Aw.
Oh,
He
stop.
active. You went full double down.
I did. Yeah. Oh man, I want to double down so bad now. I should call the wine.
You know what I did? That was genius. Did I
He's
tell you guys
out
this
right
already?
now. Oh, but
The eggs and the chopping and the frying together stuff. Yes, that was yes.
I did tell you, dude, it was delicious.
I know we're gonna have
Yeah.
chili dogs.
Yeah.
How about double?
I believe it.
That would be better.
All right, bye, Mom. Bye, Alexander.
Remember to get a double down tonight because you will not regret it. And oh man, Kronos, you've never had a double down? Go to KFC right now and get
Go
this
and live.
double down. You have not lived until you've had a KFC double down, and they're available.
It took me
right
2
now.
days to eat it, by the way, because of my small stomach. Because the thing
They're
is
that
huge. And like, so I ate it like without the egg the night of, and then the other half, because it still had some cheese and bacon on it.
So good.
I like I said, I fried up an egg, and it was
So freaking good. Yes, and so you must experience the double down sometime in your life, and hopefully maybe someday you guys will move out to Nashville or something.
Well, you need to talk to her about that because I don't want to bring up her. Talking to her about her job is like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so take care, guys, and have a wonderful rest of your whatever, I don't know, time zones.